This is a man who is now in his mid-50s, is incredibly rich, runs some amazing companies, has some brilliant ideas, and the geofence he did for the robo-taxi launch in Texas is a dick pic. Hello and welcome, Budri Gamawara from the Gadigal lands here in Sydney. It's time for Startup 360, the weekly show from Startup Daily. I'm Simon Thomsen and...
I'm Majella Campbell.
Great to have you. Had a good week?
Great week. Always a good week.
Excellent. This show is all about finding out what makes people in the startup sector tick. We lift the bonnet, check the engine, pull out the oil stick, add some coolant, all of those bits and pieces. Do they even have those in cars anymore? Probably not if it's an EV, of course. But before we go any further, I do want to say that Startup 360 is supported by Vanta, helping startups unlock market opportunities through automated compliance. Now, we've got a couple of cracking guests today. We've gone blokes, all blokes for a change. Tell us, who have we got on the show today?
Our lead guest is Kish Modi from Hey Buddy. Incredible. I can't wait to talk to him. He's got such an interesting story.
A little bit top secret, Hey Buddy, isn't it?
Hey Buddy's in stealth mode, but we're going to try and dig in and see what we can get.
We're going to do a little bit of online waterboarding and see if we can get the details out of him. And then for 10X, our rapid fire questions, we've got Jack Rathy, who is the co-founder of the legal tech startup DD Loop. He's been part of the Landers and Rogers Accelerator program. So looking forward to chat with him. Big week. I tell you, the one that surprised me, are you planning to sell anytime soon? Because Bradley Delamere from Tankstream Labs has struck a deal with ASX-listed Scalare Partners.
Yeah, I was really interested to see that one come through. That's big moves.
And I can tell you from my audience on startupdaily.net, they are very interested in this story. Of course, Tankstream has 7 locations. I think there's 5 in Sydney and one. They've just opened in Adelaide. They're down in Melbourne as well. Of course, they're here at Barangaroo, about 3 floors down from where we're recording right now, and more than 200 companies. Of course, one of the best known ones is Tim Fung, and Airtasker has been there all the way through it. I'm really pleased for them. I think this is...
Tankstream's an awesome company. I feel like they've done so much for the ecosystem. I'm really excited to see what they do at this next chapter. And again, big fan of Brad, big fan of the team.
And they're about to have a last hurrah at the City Startup Hub before it shuts down at the end of August with the S2S Summit. I'm going to be speaking at that. I'm still tweaking what I'm going to say. It just might, I might just go off at everyone and be banned for life. We'll see. But
if you're banned for the building, that's not so bad.
It will be, I might as well. If I'm going to get banned from that building, now's the time to do it. But it will be a pretty good farewell party, the S2S Summit, and some very good speakers at that. You can read more about that on startupdaily.net and, of course, about this deal. Scalare itself is an interesting business because they pitched themselves in as advisory firm investors. They listed late last year, in a reverse takeover of a company that was a confectionery business. And the share price has struggled, but, they've got the Australian Technologies Competition, big deal every year, some amazing startups in that. They've got Tech-Ready Women. They've been acquiring, I think this is their 4th acquisition. So they're building out a really interesting portfolio of businesses. And I suppose having this, it's not quite a real estate play. It's because it's not that Tankstream has the businesses, but has the properties, but certainly it's a great business in terms of access to great companies. And I can see the synergy in it.
Absolutely. I think it's great as well. Tankstream obviously primarily focuses on scale-ups as well. So I think it's going to be really great for the ecosystem to be able to have everyone mixing together. And
it's a mix of cash, shares, and a little bit of an earnout. I think about $1 million of it is $1 million, 50% cash, 50% Scalare shares. If, Brad takes it, delivers the ROI that they're looking for along the way. So best of luck to all of them. Now, the Pedestrian co-founder, Chris, has been busy and he's got $23 million in a Series B in his pocket for the edtech startup Linkbee.
Yeah, I think it's great. I'm excited to see that expansion as well. A lot of that's all going to fund their US expansion, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So Chris Wiresina, many people will know from what was a spectacular exit to Nine. I think he was very lucky. Nine was in an acquisitive mood about a decade ago. Bought a first slab of pedestrian TV, then the rest of it, and they've done really well. Of course, it ended up with my old alma mater in their Business Insider Australia became part of it, the pedestrian group, when Nine and Fairfax merged. So I left at that point, so I wasn't part of the whole pedestrian tribe, but a lot of good people around the place have worked there over the years and have now worked for other media companies. So they've had considerable success. It'll be interesting to sort of see how they go, because what they do is they kind of link brands with media. So they're helping media, which is struggling for money, with monetization and how to monetize their content. And they're working quite well in the US. Nearly 4,000 brands work with them now, everything from Lululemon to T-Mobile, and publishers like the Daily Mail and News Corp and Condé Nast are amongst the client list. So Chris is really weaving a clever thing here. And what it is kind of like the next level of SEO, the generative side of it. So it's kind of gone beyond original SEO into this new way of everyone connecting. And so we talk about cost per click, this thing. And so, you know, when you're trying to find an audience, how much is it going to cost me to find them? He's come up with a new way to do it with generative engine optimization that, you know, uses AI to sort of pair everyone up. Anyway, well done.
Yeah, I think it's great to see an Aussie founder really pioneering the space and taking the charge of this whole new wave. And the way that we're building businesses these days is rapidly changing, and it's great to see him at the front of that. Now,
I'm going to go offshore to one of the crazier stories of the week. Have you used Grok? Gone anywhere near it?
I actually haven't. I don't know why. I just haven't.
Probably because you're not insane. Could be one reason. But I deleted my Twitter account last year. Because I was kind of with, I think it was Scott Galloway who described it as a Nazi porn bar. And of course, it really did turn into an actual Nazi porn bar last week when Grok itself started claiming it would be a good idea to have Holocaust 2.0 and calling itself Mecha Hitler. So it's kind of, in that point, combining the Third Reich with Japanese anime. So points for creativity in mashing those two things together.
Don't think I've seen that combo before, but
this is horrific.
It is. It's horrifying. It's really sad to see that this is coming on its own, you know.
And then it got really wild because basically all of that happened just a couple of days before Gillian Segal, who is the Australian anti-Semitism advisor to the government, released a report on how to combat anti-Semitism and praised X and Elon Musk for their efforts to combat anti-Semitism. I think she might be on Blue Sky and didn't realise because the X I look at, and even I looked at it today, and, you know, this is a man who is now in his mid-50s, is incredibly rich, runs some amazing companies, has some brilliant ideas, and the geofence he did for the robo-taxi launch in Texas is a dick pic. It's like, what the fuck? It's like you are a teenage boy who can't stop wanking. You know, it doesn't matter where you are in public, but this guy is just, you know.
It's just a joke at this point. Like, I don't know. Like, it's all credibility to me. It's just, the bar is in hell. Like,
I mean, I don't know if he's on the mushrooms that you can take and live, but, you know, there is something in his brain. And I go back to the idea that everyone goes, oh, he's neurodiverse, and, you know, and this is why he has it. But it's really, he can hold it in when he needs to. He knows, he's got the smarts to know that when he was on Trump's side, he was on Trump's side. Now he's sort of suddenly anti-Trump, and Trump's in the Epstein diaries and Steve Bannon's in the Epstein diaries. It's like the guy chooses his battles where he wants to fight. He's got the smart.
Calculated.
I don't believe that any of this is because he's wired differently to the rest of us and can't help it. He makes a choice every time.
For poor behaviour at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And you've got to draw the line somewhere. And
shut that down. But the great news is you can now have a Grok AI porn bot.
Wonderful.
Save me.
Tech for good.
Tech. Yeah, I'm reminded of the old A.A. Gill line to in a restaurant review where he said there's never a suicide bomber handy when you need one.
Oh, my God. I don't even know how to respond.
At this point, should we just wrap and get our first guest in and do some tech for good?
I think it's time to start talking about people who are doing good things with technology.
Yeah, absolutely. We do like to be positive on this show, but, just the occasional...
That's a good way to put it.
Right. We'll be right back with Startup 360 and our first guest. Don't go away.
Hello and welcome back to Startup 360. We are joined by Kish Modi. Welcome, Kish.
Hello. Thank you.
Hey, buddy. See what I did there?
I do. Let's start with you, Kish. Can you give us a little bit of a background about yourself and what you can tell us about Hey Buddy?
Sure. So I'm Kish. Kind of always worked in the food space. Two passions in life, food and dogs. But my career is focused in food. Always a kid that didn't know what they wanted to do. Ended up in now product tech and what I would probably call food tech. But yeah,
I think
that's me in a nutshell.
I think that's a really great Venn diagram of food, dogs, a bit of product in there. That's you've got to sort it out. I really like that.
But I'm interested in this because big fan of Stevan, who did me&u and of course HelloFresh. What led you down these paths in tech? Why did you not become a chef or a restaurateur or, what was the combination of things that this is the space, but I'm also doing it from a tech side?
I get asked this a lot, right? How did you end up being a chief product officer in the food space? The real answer is totally random and unplanned. How did it happen and why did I not end up being a chef? At one point I was going to be a chef. So my story is such that I started in law after high school. I was, I had very strict, well, not very strict, but I had strict Indian parents. And my mum was like, doctor, engineer, accountant, what do you want to be? And I was like, what about none of those? And both my sisters were lawyers. I got the grades, ended up at Sydney Uni, amazing, sure. And then in 2 weeks, I quit. I was like, I don't want to be a lawyer. Went to my first lecture. I was like, this is so not me. And parents like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. I think I want to go to the UK for university. Went and did business management at King's, excelled again. Ended up doing all these banking internships in London. Got offered a banking gig and was like, I don't want to do this, run, and came back home. And then I ended up in management consulting. Mm-hmm. I didn't really know what that was. I still don't really get it.
I'm pretty sure most people in management consulting have no idea what it is either.
No, but I ended up doing that, and I did it with a lens. It's
profitable, that's the main thing.
I did it with a lens of food. So I just loved cooking, used to watch my mum cook. But when I came back to Australia, because of the academic years, I got a job at a management consulting firm, A.T. Kearney, and paid really well, got a sign-on bonus, and they said, do you want to start now or do you want to start with your cohort in 9 months? I was like, I'll just take the sign-on bonus and take the 9 months. What do I want to do? And I actually went to Paris and I went to Cordon Bleu and I did a whole pastry course thing, thinking one day I want to open my cafe.
Boulangerie.
Yeah. I want to bake croissants.
Patisserie.
And then what I really quickly realised is, one, this is really hard, and two, baking croissants and opening cafes means that you need to get up at the crack of dawn so that you've got freshly made croissants available at 6, 7 a.m. in the morning. And I was like, I actually don't want to do this. Ended up in management consulting. I did really cool things with Coles and Lion Drinks and Dairy with a cheese factory in Tasmania. And then I left that for a bit and ended up being a food consultant. That was really cool. There was a bunch of very famous chefs, Alex Herbert, Jared Ingersoll. Oh. And then...
mates of mine. And Jared went on to work at Canva. He was
did.
Working sustainably at Canva.
But it was really cool you had these chefs that weren't having restaurants anymore, but that were consulting and doing really cool tender processes. Then you had Qantas ex-food people. There was a bunch of DJs, food hall people. Mm-hmm. And then there was me, who was this analyst. I was the most junior in this team, but I was just surrounded by super detailed food experts. And we worked on precincts like this. So Barangaroo, Len Lease would come to us and be like, how many coffee shops can we sustain? And I would do the modelling, right? How many coffees per day, per desk, per building how were the Barangaroo Towers going to open, and I started using my management consulting expertise in the food space. I then left that a couple of years or 3 years after with heaps of expertise, but I wanted to go into actual industry, and I was like, I want to do something in the food space. And Josh Sparks actually reached out. So he had Thrive, which was way too early for its day, but Thrive was kind of like keto bowls and meals, and then sold to Sumo Salad. But that was my first launch into the food space. That went under. I went to HelloFresh and I ran product at HelloFresh. Again, total fluke. I don't know how, to be honest. I was approached because of management consulting contacts, and they were like, hey, Kish is in the food space and he's smart and he can model, but I had no product expertise, right? And then I'm in this role. And yes, product there was really the actual physical box in Australia, but the Australian market was growing substantially. And there was like 300 engineers in Berlin that we had access to.
What?
And it was huge. The build team for the global HelloFresh team is enormous. And but it's centralized, and everyone in the world has access to the engineering team, and you've got to.
So basically, you've got a bunch of ex-Mercedes engineers who are now F1 who are doing sort of food boxes.
But I'd never done a Jira ticket in my life. I wasn't this product manager that built himself up to be head of product.
For what it's worth, I'm still trying to get through life without doing a Jira ticket.
No, but suddenly I was like, okay, I've got all these tools that I can learn, but it was all self-taught really quickly. Get onto Figma, get onto Jira, learn the entire Atlassian suite. And also, hey, by the way, I'm hiring 4 product managers next month that have way more product experience in hands-on tools than I do. But I loved it. And then suddenly I was just going with it and being like, actually, this is an awesome role. I just didn't really know it existed. But it wasn't like I did not start as a product manager and build myself up. I would have, if I knew what that was, I would have done that probably instead of management consulting, but I didn't. And then from there, Stevan reached out, or actually a recruiter reached out and was like, hey, this guy Stevan, who's ex-Dimmi. We'd never worked together before, but I joined very early on. I was kind of the 3rd or 4th employee at me&u with this concept and this idea, and that took off. And I was then the CPO there.
And he got Justin Hems to back him.
Yeah.
So, that whole power of Maryvale was part of it. And he did really well.
But I was in my element. I was now suddenly I was doing all the analytics side of things. I love the customer research, interviewing side of things, but I was in an industry that I'm deeply fascinated by. Having
it made sense.
Meetings with all these chefs and restaurateurs and being like, how can we help the industry? I then left that 2022 after the merger with Mr. Yum. It was the time for me to go into my next thing. And then as Majella knows, 23, I actually took a bit of a break and I'd done things in the food space. I was like, let's go do something in the dog space. And I started a business called Fresh Pets, which never really took off from a customer perspective. But I did close a round for that one. I think laundromat meets dog wash meets Aesop store, and it was really cool. And my my initial
Aesop for dogs, I like that.
My initial investors were really cool. We closed. We were going to open our first site early 24, but I actually got hit and diagnosed with leukemia in October 2023. And the last 18 months have been brutal. But I got told I was in remission end of last year, and then Stevan reached out again and was like, hey, mate, what are you doing? Let's go again. And we are still in stealth mode, largely still in stealth mode, but we've launched a business called Hey Buddy in the hospitality space again, but this time, and all I will share today is that it's going to be an AI platform helping the hospo space.
Being still in stealth mode, but you've already got a couple of big companies on board as customers, without obviously naming them. Can you tell us a little bit about what that process has been like, operating in stealth, but still, showing that proof?
Can we just actually describe what stealth mode is? Because I still don't quite understand.
I think everyone approaches it slightly differently, right? There's true stealth mode, which is...
You don't put it on your LinkedIn profile.
It's not on your LinkedIn. You might not have, we've not had a company on it. And we weren't going to share anything on LinkedIn, but what it actually came down to was I needed to make 2 key hires, and we decided we needed, it's really the only reason I would go on LinkedIn anyway, but I was like, I need to share enough to excite. Mm-hmm. And even people that were then applying for this job was like, I don't know what you do, but it's in the hospo space and it's with you and Stevan, so sure, tell me more and let's interview. But otherwise we would have been in true stealth mode, which was just build before we launch, get into our first few sites. And essentially there's no real marketing behind it, right? Because we haven't launched yet and there's no reason to. We're doing a few things in one go though. Because we've done it before in the hospo space, we've got a bunch of people that we've built before. I've got a bunch of product UX and engineers that I would, no matter what I was to go and build, I would hire them first. They're my founding team. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of doing that, and we've got together an amazing team of people, which you won't know about because none of them have put it on LinkedIn. And we're building under the radar. But in the same time, yeah, sure, there's been a bunch of customer interviews. The people that we worked with previously, Steven knowing people from Dimmi and from me&u and going, hey, I'm going to do something again. That in itself is like, sure, let's get lunch and coffee. What are you doing? How do you help me? Before you go in, we've not gone in with a strong sell. A lot of this is like, actually, what are you doing next? And hey, we've known you guys for the last 10 years. We're actually quite keen or fascinated. How might it help me? Before you then go in to sell the product, it's actually much more of a human connection. And actually just going out to venue. Steven had a kid, took a sabbatical. Funnily enough, I was, fighting cancer, but he took a year and a bit off. But in that process, met all these industry experts. And a lot of that was also reflection. What did we do well at me&u? What did we not do at me&u? Did we change or shift the industry in the shape that we wanted to? If not, and if we were to go back, where could we potentially help? What are the biggest problems? And we started with that. We actually started with, we know we want to do something in hospitality. We know we've got a bunch of amazing people that know how to build amazing tech. But what are the key critical problems? And then also, hey, there's this whole shift happening in AI. We didn't necessarily have access to these tools and these models previously. If we were to go back and look at a few pieces and now go and build with those resources, what would we put together? And we put together Hey Buddy, which I can't now share more with.
Find out soon.
Fingers crossed. I mean, look, I do know, given the team, it's like, I'm very much shut up and take my money on this one, because I know when the time comes for you guys to look for capital, I reckon there'll be a flood of offers on the table. But I want to talk to you about your idea of resilience, which is not bouncing back, it's bouncing forward. You did an extraordinary post on LinkedIn a week or two ago where you talked about your blood cancer and your thinking. And having gone through this journey over 18 months, how do you look at the world now?
Big question. In the last, probably more so 6 months, I was very vocal. Even in the last, to be honest, 18 months, I've been incredibly vocal about my journey with leukemia. Incredibly vulnerable on platforms like LinkedIn of like, hey, by the way, like, I might not make it. I just had a meeting with my doctor. The statistics are pretty brutal, and I'm about to go into a bone marrow transplant, and these are statistics of life and death, which people don't often talk about, right? But I'm like, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to raise money on the back of this too, and we did. Because
it's almost like a founder mindset in this moment. You've got to be positive. It's going to work. Everything's going to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a bit of a founder mindset. I was also, it gave me a little bit of purpose for the 18 months because I was literally just sitting at home or in hospital. I was in hospital a lot, a little bit bored, and it gave me something to focus on, which was the fundraising element, rather than just feeling sorry for myself and sitting in hospital and focused on the medicines and the doctor meetings. I was like, let's just go out there and have conversations. But then there's on the other side of being told, okay, you are in remission, which is freaking amazing. There's part of me that was like, well, what do I want to do next? And a lot of people had these coffee conversations with me, and they were like, oh my God, you'd be so resilient. And thick skin, and you've survived something really brutal. And some went so far to be like, if you do your next startup, amazing, and actually I'll back you purely based on the fact that I think you'll just keep going, right? But it really made me think. And to answer your question, Simon, like your perception of the world, like I still want to my biggest thing has always been build cool shit with cool people and leave your legacy, right? Make your mark on things that you're proud of building, and hopefully build something today that makes the world look better next week and go, I did that. That's my big thing. Like I want to see people use my product in real life and go, that's amazing. We solved a true problem. When I think about what I'm doing with Hey Buddy, the team we're building, the culture, part of me is also like, I have physically changed and continue to change, right? Like even my face this week and last week is completely puffed up. I'm on really heavy medication. My weight has changed dramatically in the last 6 months. I still have to go for check-ins with doctors. Like I need to make space, and there's always going to be like, yes, you go and you're resilient, but actually like, how am I managing my work-life balance? What does my week look like? What am I doing to make sure I still get stressed, but how am I managing that stress, and how am I reacting differently to situations to make sure that health still has a priority? And I kind of want to do it all, but I want to do it all on my own terms. Like I want to build this next venture. I don't want to not do a startup because that's my space and that's what I want to do and build. So yeah, maybe I'm a bit crazy, but I'm the guy that's like, hey, I've just recovered from cancer. Hey, I've also got a stoma bag and I've lost my bowel and part of my rectum. And I'm going to go build a company whilst we aren't 100% and fully healthy yet. But I'm healthy enough to do it.
Awesome.
Incredible. I want to maybe go a little bit deeper in terms of like when you're going through those challenging periods, whether that be treatment or even just like the roller coaster of starting a startup, the people around you obviously play a really big role in your life. You know, how has your relationships really changed during that time, whether it be to your family, to your fiance, all those sorts of ones?
I have an incredible close circle of both friends and my partner Paul was just phenomenal, but close family and friends, ex-colleague, everyone, to be honest. Like Stevan is an incredible friend, right? Like he was there in hospital. Alex Herbert, incredible friend, somebody I've worked with for many years, but like there holding my hand when I'm going through chemo, right? People that I've worked with have then seen me in a very vulnerable state. I mean, so has everyone else. I literally posted photos on LinkedIn of me in a hospital gown. It's not something I would naturally normally do, right? But my perception was like, well, okay, well, we're here now, right? Like you kind of fight and you go, well, who's there? That being said, there was also a group of friends that we lost. So funny enough, I was talking about this to my partner Paul recently because we're getting married. I'm organising a wedding. It's happening in November, but this wedding has moved like 3 times because of me being in treatment. And when you move a wedding that many times, and also when you delay a wedding like 2 years, you realize that you've sent out save the dates, and then you're like, oh my God, I'm not even friends with this person anymore. What do I do? So I've actually listened to other podcasts in the wedding space of being like, how do you just invite somebody to your wedding? And I'm like, do we do this? This is brutal. But I'm like, also, it's changed. Like I went through 2 years of cancer. I've not spoken to this person. So we've gained friends, we've become very close with people, and I know who my network is, I know who's there in good times and bad. There's also people that naturally, and some, not in a good or bad way, maybe it was too much for them, that just evolved, and people that we don't speak to anymore. So a bit of both.
Well, the important question there is, have you asked Alex to make the wedding cake?
No, but she's coming.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, she'll have a great time, I know, but I'm just planning that idea because
if you're going to call someone
I love
favours.
her baking. She is really good. Mate, I do want to ask a little bit more about managing the emotions of other people around you, because this is part of leadership. And when you go through these moments, I also think that you have a revelation that it's often about the people around you as much as it is you, and you need, even when it's your trauma, you need to step up to help them. Did you get a sense of that and that feeling as people came around, or were you just absolutely blessed with everyone saying, got your back, we'll be here?
It was probably something more recent, if I'm honest. For the main part of the journey, and since being like it was pretty brutal. When I say brutal, like I was in ICU for the first month of my journey, and my way of dealing with that, I actually told my mum, who's very strong, but she's a 5'2" petite Indian woman, and I said, "Mum," and to my partner Paul, "no one's going to cry." And she took that literally, like, no one should cry in front of my son. And everyone that came in and out of hospital, she's like, no tears, zero emotion, rational conversation only, positive thoughts only, no one's allowed to cry in front of Kish, right? So for at least 8 months, I never saw anyone cry. We're going through, as a family and as a friend circle, we were going through something very hard. But if people were emotional, and it was just my way of dealing with it, everyone goes through this in different ways, they would step out of the room. They would never, ever break down in front of me, because then I would start breaking down and it would just be the slippery slope, right? So it was like strong, focused end goal. That hits you afterwards. I think it was more, I had a dinner with very close friends and my family recently, and it was a lot about even just me. And it was like, oh gosh, you know, physically I've changed. I'm on now meds. I feel great, but like, when's this puffiness going to go? And then we joked, and one of my other friends was like, oh, I've gained like 8 kilos in this journey too. And I was like, I never really thought about, and it was so small, right? It wasn't about the weight gain, but it was, this has affected this person too. And this journey's not just been about me, but those closest to me have also suffered immensely, whether it's stress or sleepless nights or, you know, taking time off work. Even Paul, I mean, we were fortunate enough to do so, but he basically took off a year off work to look after me, right? And be my primary carer in that period. That's when I've then got into a leadership bit of like, even now, what I share and what I don't, what is the purpose of sharing that? And also who you depend on. Like, my parents are 75 years old, right? There was a period that, like, I'm very close with my mum and I would share all these things with her. Now, I'm kind of like, maybe I should save that for my therapist on the weekend as opposed to calling mum, because if I call mum, she'll listen to this, but I know that then tomorrow she's going to have a really brutal day processing everything I've just told her. Maybe I should actually tell the person I'm paying who's trained in this space to help me manage that situation and that trauma, as opposed to just reaching out to a close friend or a relative, because it will impact them. Just like you would if you were running a startup, or if you're a CEO of a company or a leadership role, you don't just tell employees the stress that's on your plate. These roles exist because as an executive or whatever else, there's layers of information, not so you don't share, but so that you don't freak people out or overshare where there doesn't need to be. You don't need 100 people running around being like, oh my God, the budget, right? Like, why? What chaos would you create, and why would you do that? And the same thing applies when you're going through trauma. I've gone to doctors' meetings and they might say, you might have this. I don't pick up the phone and tell everyone, oh my God, I might have this thing, right? I just wait for them to tell me yes or no before I share that news and freak everyone out.
Can I just say, he's worried he's a little bit puffy. He's so bloody gorgeous. I can't believe, he must have been like drop dead beforehand if he's worried about it now.
It's very true. It's very true. You spoke a little bit about legacy. You know, what do you want your legacy to really be?
I want to walk around in like whatever my week or life looks like, right? And see products that I've built that I actively want to use, a bit selfish, for myself, for my friends, for my family. So whether that's hospitality venues, I've got a dog, Otto, things that I do with Otto products that I use and go, we did that, we built this, we changed that in the house, outside of the house, for better, right? Now that could be more profitable for industries, it could be more sustainable, extending joy for whatever for a period of time. But that's my legacy. I want to be that 80-year-old when people go, oh my God, that's so cool, or you've just saved something. I'll be like, we did that. And yeah, it is. It literally is building cool shit with cool people and having fun. And if I can train and inspire people along the way, amazing. But it's about the end product for me.
You're going to be out for dinner and the AI and Hey Buddy will be so familiar that no one will even think or notice it. It'll just be part of whatever's happening.
I'll just arrive at the restaurant and the meal that I want is going to be right there in front of me. That's going to be cool.
Now, speaking of meals, what is the perfect Kish meal?
Oh. Fancy but not in your face. Like, I'm not a white tablecloth type of guy, right?
Yep.
But I love good food. Probably a bit of Italian, bit of modern Australian mix, that when we do that quite well.
Are there any ingredients? I mean, we're talking sort of potatoes with sour cream and salsa on top?
This is a great question. So funnily enough, before I had my bone marrow transplant, I asked one of my very close friends who also runs an amazing catering company to do a bit of a party for me. I don't know what we just called it a party, whatever. And she messaged me and she said, I want to curate a menu. And I was like, well, I don't want to tell you specifics. And I sent her just a list of ingredients. And I've always been a bit vegetarian, a bit pescatarian. I love scallops, celeriac, fennel, pumpkin.
Yep.
I'm really into celeriac and fennel at the moment. So yeah, they're up there.
You and Otto, what would you sit down and have together for dinner?
Paul and I, or Otto and I?
Otto and I. You're having dinner with the dog.
Otto is obsessed.
I'll put a bowl down for each of you.
Yeah, right. Otto he's a fussy eater. He's also, we've got a hyper allergenic dog that then has allergies. So Otto can't have beef or pork.
Oh, wow.
He eats kangaroo and I love Leica as a brand. He's tried both, and I know them both very well. But funny enough, even when I did Fresh Pets, on my advisory board, I had Gigi from Leica and I had Mike from Scratch.
Oh, wow.
We went with Leica. He prefers the wet food, but Scratch, I'm marketing for my friends. Scratch, from a dry food perspective, Melbourne-based company, is amazing. And Mike's built a phenomenal business. And then obviously Leica, everyone knows Leica, but Anna and Gigi have built a phenomenal business. And I would see it as HelloFresh for dogs. And that is what Otto eats. He eats kangaroo specifically, and a lot of it. He's on like 800 or 900 grams a day. So our freezer is full. An entire compartment of my freezer is just his food. But he's obsessed. And
what type of dog is Otto?
He's a cobber dog.
A cobber dog?
Basically, which is an Australian purebred Labradoodle. I don't understand how that works because the Labradoodle says can't be
purebred Labradoodle sounds like
but that is what it is. And they were, funny enough, they're bred to be emotional therapy and companion dogs. I got Otto way before I found out I had cancer, but I'm like, I have the right dog.
That's so wonderful.
Bring it home, girlfriend.
Oh, well, I was actually going to ask a dog-related question, but I want to know, we've probably answered the question now, and I was going to say, what is your all-time favourite dog? But it's probably Otto. How I think about it.
I do love Otto. Funnily enough, I live in the inner west. When we were thinking about getting a dog, I've always loved Kelpies. But Paul, my partner, was like, no, he's from the country. And he's like, I'm sorry, like we cannot be the inner west couple that buys a dog that needs to be on a farm.
Yeah.
Do not do this.
With 160 square metres to run around and nothing to herd.
Yeah. One day when I'm, when we do move out somewhere, when I've got all this space, I will probably buy some sort of Kelpie cross. But otherwise, whilst we're in the city and we need to do long walks and stuff, but not have a farm dog, a cobber dog it's pretty cool.
Perfect. That's a great choice.
Well, Kish, when Hey Buddy is a massive financial success and you and Stevan have a wonderful exit and you have a great holiday house somewhere in the country with a Kelpie and your husband and life is just wonderful, you'll have to invite us out. We'll bring Alex and have dinner. Sounds good?
That's good.
All right. Thanks for joining us on Start
Thank you.
360. It was great to hear your story.
Thanks for having me.
Should we grab a quick break? That was an amazing
great. That was
conversation
so
and
good.
we'll be right back. Whew.
I thought we were done. I just started talking.
Yeah, we have to step outside, have a quick cry, and then we'll come back and get
I
our
already
next
started
guest
the show
in.
off camera.
Welcome back to Startup 360 with Simon and Majella and our guest for 10X, Jack Rathy, the co-founder of DD Loop. Jack, great to have you in.
Thanks for having me.
All right, DD Loop, give us the elevator pitch.
Yep. So DD Loop helps law firms, investors, and professionals do fast, reliable legal due diligence for their M&A, fundraising, and financing deals. Essentially, the way that works is that when you're behind the scenes on a deal, there's just thousands of data points that you're trying to capture as the lawyer on that deal or the professional. And so you're keeping track of all of these moving parts, whether that's shareholders or registered IP and patents and property or previous litigation. And so DD Loop helps you research and understand all of those disparate data points and automates that process for law firms to help them kind of improve their processes when they're working on those transactions. And so essentially DD Loop is that next generation information broker and interface into all of these legacy government registers that are critical for this future where we have agentic professional and agentic powered professional workforce.
And I assume that keeps the class action lawyers away from the due diligence issues should they arise later down the track.
That's right. Yeah, we like to cover our asses as lawyers, so we make sure every T's are crossed and the I's are dotted.
That's it, DD Loop, covering your asses with AI. That's the line.
You just found a chief marketing officer right there.
There you go. Clip it.
All right, shall we do 10X? Are you ready to roll on this?
Yeah, let's roll.
All right.
All right. My first question is, what was the moment that you knew you needed to start DD Loop?
Yeah, good question. So I remember the time when I was in practice. I was an M&A lawyer at Kingwood Mallisons. The partner I was working for, who I won't leave his name out of it, lovely man, but he came over to me and he opened up his Corporations Act textbook and was like, Jack, we need to do this particular piece of advice, but this is my favorite part of the Corporations Act, so read it really carefully. And I remember thinking, holy shit, I'll never have a favorite part of this god-awful book. I'd prefer never to read it again, which was kind of the first sign that maybe I wanted to do something a little bit outside of the realm of law. But both of my co-founder and I kind of found ourselves in the innovation team at that firm, where we were essentially kind of looking for problems in the way that the firm was operating and ways we could do things better. And then we were the ones at the front line, like demoing all of the new tech, testing it out, getting our hands dirty to see whether it could actually solve those problems. And where it couldn't, we would actually build it ourselves. And so I guess through that process of both doing it myself and realizing, I didn't really like doing the work that we were doing, as well as kind of seeing what else was out there and thinking some of it was pretty ordinary, we decided we could do a better job. And I guess between the two of us had the knowledge, skills, and I guess the real world experience of how we could really solve this problem meaningfully in a way that we don't think that others are kind of tackling it in the market.
Putting the sexy back in the Corporations Act. I love the fact that he inspired you in that way, or not. But I want to ask you, the step from lawyer to founder, tell me what that was like.
Yeah, it's different. Definitely putting your kind of sales hat on and getting yourself out there is not necessarily the skill set that's taught in law school or an early career as a lawyer. But look, I think we quite deliberately tried to I guess, give ourselves new experiences and lean into that as much as possible. We do think one of our superpowers is that we are so embedded and ingrained, and that's where we come from, that we really understand our customer base and what they're trying to do. But at the same time, being a founder is a little bit of a different role there. And so, we went through the StartMate Accelerator to kind of battle test some of and rewire our brains a little bit in terms of kind of assumptions and ways of working that just need to stay at the law firm in order for DD Loop to thrive. And so that was quite good. And I think maybe more specifically, I guess you're built to avoid risk at a law firm, and a lot of the time that means spending, getting that last 80 to 100% perfect is really important for your clients. But in the startup world and with this, if it takes twice as long to go from 80 to 100%, sometimes it's just better to do the 80% and move on. So that was definitely something that had to rewire.
And flip the thinking. Yeah.
Exactly.
What is a ritual or habit that sort of keeps you sane during the startup roller coaster?
I'm a big reader. Love my kind of fantasy novels, and that probably then extends into some of the other media I consume, whether that's TV shows or movies or video games as well. So I like to switch off from that side. I find it actually quite meditative to think about alternate realities and worlds that aren't necessarily the one that we're in right now. But that's a really good way for me to just kind of disconnect and feel like I can hit the reset button.
You mentioned Startmate, so you've been through that program and you've been doing Landers and Rogers more recently.
Yep.
Startmate, big demo day. What's your favourite part of it? Is it getting up and presenting? Is it the DJing? Is it the crowd going wild? Or is it the bar afterwards?
Yeah, both are pretty good. I do say that they do demo day really well. It's really empowering to stand up on that stage as a founder and feel like the crowd is actually behind you rather than in front of you when you're getting up there to pitch. So it's pretty special. But I do think it's the only time in my life that I'll ever experience a live DJ set leading into someone to come up talking about legal due diligence on demo day. That's never going to happen again. So credit to them for setting that up. That was pretty good fun.
Yeah, it makes me. Do you think the Supreme Court does need a DJ? Do you think that's where the legal system's going wrong? I know Janet Albrechtson's complaining about the law in the Australian today. Maybe it needs a DJ.
Yeah, that we can look into that. I don't know how the bench will respond, but surely there's room up there on their big dais to fit in a set of decks.
Yeah, DJ adjourn.
I want to know, what's one thing from your lawyer days that you had to unlearn as a founder?
Yeah, unlearn. It's a good question. I think that the main one is that perfection can be the enemy of good. And kind of speaking to what I was talking about earlier, but it is better to get most of the things on your to-do list done rather than one or two of them done really perfectly. And that is, there's scope for that in this role. And I think the other thing that I actually took from legal practice and is now actually really valuable in building DD Loop is the profession is actually built on trust and being able to create those relationships with your clients. And I think it is the same thing when you're in this position and building a startup. It's building trust with your customers and really, I guess, understanding them and what their goals are and how you can actually help them along on their journey as well. And so, there's maybe the part B to your question, which is unlearn, but then also things that I'm glad that we learned in practice as well.
Our first guest, Kish, flirted briefly with the law. And then went down a very different path.
Sensible.
So, exactly. So this is where I'm going with this. So if you weren't staying in that track with DD Loop, what would you be off doing?
I'd probably still be in this realm of, I guess, like building.
Yeah.
Was always, I guess, growing up, like obsessed with building things, tinkering, like trying my hand at like early programming when I was a kid. And really kind of liked the idea of bringing something to life, particularly in software. I guess just didn't find the particular problem that I really wanted to go after until I saw in law, it's just greenfield opportunity in that particular space. When it comes to technology, you kind of go through law school for 3 or 5 years and you think that, you'll get a job at one of the top tier firms and everything will be really polished, but you're greeted with some pretty legacy systems that look like, Windows 95 or some of the older products. And you just see the gap between what it is actually like in some of these big enterprises versus, you know, what it is in your personal life with your phone and the various like quality of software that you use there. And there's just such opportunity in that space. So I was pretty glad to find it in legal. But yeah, I'd still probably be tinkering around or building something in the software space.
What is, I'm going to swear, but a fuck up moment that you've had on your startup journey that you've actually been grateful for in the end?
Ooh.
Yeah. No, you're bringing out some deep fears of failure and fuck ups in law that we don't talk about. But I think with this one in particular, I think we pivoted on some of our early pricing models. We had some intuition with DD Loop that it was better in the legal space to go with the flow and try to fit into the existing processes as much as you can in order to get, you know, fast approvals and get to market quickly. And I think potentially early on we tried to push that envelope and actually test whether that was a real whether that was true or not by asking for different versions of pricing and things like that, and got pretty swift kind of pushback. And then, you know, you can change that decision and a no for it turns into a yes in the space of kind of 20 minutes if you pivot live. So yeah, that was definitely a learning for us.
Due diligence, okay? It's everywhere. Yes, lawyers, very important. You know, investors do it as well.
Or they should.
Or they should. So that's the thing. What's the due diligence thing that everyone overlooks until they go, oh, shit, and guys like you come and say, hey, don't forget.
Yeah, it's a bit like brushing your teeth, right? Like, you know you should be doing it twice a day and on every deal, but it sometimes, timelines get compressed and it doesn't make sense to do it if you're not kind of automating or making things more efficient. I think that the key part with what we're trying to unlock at DD Loop is that there's a wealth of information out there that actually is public and doesn't require you digging deep into a data room and reading lots and lots of contracts to understand. The kind of goal for the platform.
Corporations Act.
Yeah, exactly. Part of the beauty of what we're doing is you can type in a company name in DD Loop and pull all of this data in, and so you can see the risks live. And like one of the, I guess, more public examples of this kind of going pear-shaped recently was the Strong Room AI fiasco. When that story first broke, we actually just put Strong Room into DD Loop, and it came up with like some pretty interesting stuff. Like they changed the cap table 88 times in 12 months. There was...
I should have been ringing him all along.
The Victorian taxman had taken out security against the assets of the company, so there was pretty clearly like some issues with unpaid taxes. And then, their litigation history, there's a former founder suing the company from a couple of years ago. So immediately, within 5 minutes of putting that in and actually doing the research on those various sources, you can just pull this information out. And so more people should be doing it. But I think it's now easier than ever to do it, right? If it took you 2 weeks to get to that position, you might not be doing it as much, but now it takes a lot less. So there's no real excuse to be dodging this stuff anymore.
Man, it's like you just told me a whole lot of stuff I had no idea. And I've spent a fortune on ASIC records and, bugging the court for sort of statements of claim.
Just going to have a subscription from Simon this afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. Shut up and take my money.
You've got a new angle here. You've got a new,
Too good.
new customer base. You've got journalists.
All right, your last shot.
Well, my next question was actually going to be, what is the one tedious task that you just are so glad that you don't have to do as a result of DD Loop?
Ooh, as a result of DD Loop specifically, one of the things is to your point, Simon, earlier about like looking up all these ASIC records. Like sometimes you just get buried in like hundreds of pages of PDF documents, and you actually don't know. Like it takes internally, we kind of talk about this in terms of what does it take to get to the starting line. In terms of even first thing I need to do is understand what's going on, and if it takes me too long to understand what's going on. You're digging through these pages and figuring it out, like that sucks. And it's something like we just kind of went through. It's really easy to get across this information and actually unlocks so much more, better decision making that you can do. But honestly, like if we can go right down to the tactical level, like not having to copy paste a lot of shit out of one document and into another one and deal with the formatting. That's probably one, because we can spit out a due diligence report, in the firm's branding and make it all look pretty, which is half the job, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The Startup Daily Guide to Strong Room. I love this.
Simon, this is the best news he's had all week.
Mate, I think it goes back to court on the 21st of August. And so we'll get to see the latest, because I do know from the court alerts that they've been changing lawyers lately too. So all very interesting. But the important question, this is where I really put you under pressure on this one.
Yep.
3 books. You love science fiction. 3 books everyone should read.
In the fantasy realm or science fiction realm?
I'm not suggesting tort law or anything like that.
Yeah,
I'm
the Corporations Act? No.
Yeah, the Tax Act is such a cracker.
No.
Wait till you see the Netflix series, The Tax Act. No, I want 3 science fiction books that everyone should read.
Yep. So my number 1 book recommendation is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. He's an absolute poet when it comes to writing prose, and he's fantastic at world building.
Give me the AI précis of it. What's going on?
In that world, there is it's a mixture of kind of science and magic together. And this particular protagonist is kind of going through the university journey of learning all of that world, whilst also trying to build up the skills to avenge his family, who was brutally murdered in his childhood, and he's trying to get revenge.
All right, number 2.
I would say Red Rising by Pierce Brown. That's a bit like Hunger Games-esque, but is set in a society where everyone is split up into different colours, and that forms the hierarchy of the universe, with gold being at the top and then silver, bronze all the way down.
Oh, wow. Okay. And the final one?
The final one, you can't go past like Game of Thrones. George R.R. Martin's a legend there.
All right. Well, you got some reading to do this weekend. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I got to stop reading Harry Potter and start reading some real fantasy books.
Mine was Doris Lessing, and The Making of the Representative for Planet 8 was one of my favourites from a long time ago, quite simply because the idea that the world was dying and we had to distill the sum of human knowledge into a couple of representatives who'd be shot out into space, which kind of sounds a little bit Elon Musk-esque in that context. But it was one of those books that had me thinking about what it meant to be human, and and I love Doris Lessing. But they're great recommendations, so thank you, mate.
You're welcome.
All the best with DD Loop.
Thank you.
Look forward to ringing you up and saying, hey, Jack, need to know a little bit about this company, please.
We'll get
Just
you
give me your
hooked up
bank
offline,
account.
don't worry.
All right. Jack Rathy, thanks for joining us on Startup 360 and joining us on 10X.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's the weekend. What do you got planned?
I'm going camping this weekend.
You're going camping?
So excited. I'm going to be so cold. But
Where are you going?
Mega Long Valley, I think it's called.
Perfect, yes.
Yeah, I'm very
Wonderful
excited.
spot.
I'm bringing the dog. I'm going with some friends, so it'll be great. What about you?
I'm taking the kids down to Aldi Aspen, aka Perisher.
It's like taking the kids to Aldi. I was like, sleigh.
Yeah. Well,
I just used the word sleigh.
We were a little bit late to go to the Aldi ski bins, so you know we've had to sort of stock up elsewhere. But no, we're going to Perisher for the week, so I won't be here next week. AJ is going to join you in the Startup 360 Lounge, and you guys are probably going to have a lot of fun next week without me. But I'm going to wave to you and send photos just before the pre-record. So you can see how much fun I'm having down Thredbo, because there's been 70 centimetres of snow this week already, and it's still dumping.
So good. Have a great time.
Thank you. You too. Stay warm, rug up in the Megalong Valley.
I think I'll be hitting this Aldi ski bins too.
It's a beautiful spot, Megalong Valley. Guys, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you have a great weekend too. I'll see you in a fortnight, but of course, Startup 360 is out every Friday. Before we go, I do want to say this is a Pinstripe Media production, produced and edited by the wonderful Matt Jackson. Let's see if the Sharkies can get 2 in a row this weekend. Thanks to Ella Walsh, James Vass, and Vanta for their support. Subscribe to the show wherever you like your podcast, of course, Apple, Spotify, and you can watch on YouTube if you like the visuals along with listening. And don't forget to read startupdaily.net. There's going to be some amazing stuff about Strongroom, hopefully in the coming weeks, thanks to DD Loop. We'll see. But you can get all your tech news there for free. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.